everyone, welcome back. So today I wanted to do a Q2 Powersheets update. Obviously this quarter is going to be a little different than the last quarters, and I'm sure it's been that way for most of us because whatever plans we made, yeah, they probably just didn't happen. So I wanted to start first by looking kind of at like where I thought I was going to be going and what I ended up accomplishing, and then talk a little bit about some methods of reflection that I used kind of as a part of doing the quarterly refresh. So this is where I ended up, where I thought I was going to be at the end of March. I probably did this, let me look. I think I might have actually just left everything the same. So probably beginning of March, middle of March is when stuff was really starting to hit. I was in, if you remember me talking about it, I was in DC when everything really kind of hit the fan. I don't remember if I did this before or after I got back. But where I started with was with my health goal, which remained the same from the beginning of the year. So reclaiming my health through healthy food, regular self-care, movement I enjoy. For my goal pertaining to my marriage, purposefully tending our marriage. Somebody, I think the last time I talked about this, asked what that looked like. He is working a contract job in a different state, so without COVID, it looks a lot different than with COVID in play. This last quarter, that's actually been making a point to make sure we keep in touch, whether that's phone or text. Just reaching out, having conversations, and that sort of thing. It also helps that I got him hooked on Animal Crossing New Horizons, so we'll actually play together also and visit each other's islands and stuff like that. So that's kind of another fun way to connect. My third goal for my YouTube channel / Etsy store is to provide positive, valuable information and resources / content, but also to grow that side business and community. For home, my home goal is to cultivate a home that fosters rest and connection. My finance goal was to finish paying off my student and auto loans and snowball all those loan payments into savings. Spoiler, sneak peek, whatever you want to call it, I accomplished my loans being paid off. I was very excited about that. The auto loan I think I paid off sometime in the first quarter. My student loans I paid off I think in May or the tail end of April. So I was super excited to have both of those gone. So everything else I have I think is just the mortgage because I pay off credit cards every single month. So I had quite a bit of debt when I started my paying off my debt journey. And now I am pretty much debt-free, which is very exciting. Work and industry goals. So for work, my goal was to create routines and review processes that put Cambridge responsibilities on autopilot. Part of that's because I'm president of the Southern California Rental Housing Association this year. So that took a front seat to a lot of things this last quarter because I was giving media interviews and writing articles and things like that because rental housing played such a big role was very in the front of everybody's minds when it came to sheltering in place, people being unemployed or furloughed, how am I going to pay my rent, that sort of thing. So it's been a lot of my time making sure I reminded all of our legislators that it's really important to make sure that our residents get money for not only their rent, but for their living expenses, and that they are basically that keystone in the whole rental housing environment. Without renters and their rent payment, the rest of everything falls apart. So my overall goal has been to be a positive, problem-solving, listening, to present that energy. So took a lot of that to heart and made sure I kept that in mind as I was speaking with various groups. Seventh goal is my spiritual growth, deepening my relationship with God. And then my eighth goal, this is where I changed it. Everything else pretty much stayed the same from the beginning of the year. But this one I changed. Let's see if I can find the first set. Here we go. So originally I called this one Recreation because it matched up with their goal refresh categories. What I ended up changing it to was something called Passion Project. So I'm leaving this goal 8, Recreation, if you will, as my passion project. So, but the beginning of the year, I was wanting to do like a quarterly seasonal e-zine that I might print. I was still fleshing out what that would look like, but it became apparent that I thought what might be needed more was to focus on a goal-setting video series. So I changed in March/April-ish to focus on that. And it took me a while because I wanted to be very thoughtful and put things together. And that's already started. I will link that playlist down below if you haven't seen those already. We are getting ready here fairly soon to start talking about breaking down goals and, you know, how to break them down into achievable actions. So that's coming very soon. All right, so that's where I started out for the quarter. Honestly, I didn't really fill a lot of these pages out. I've been doing a lot of tracking in Notion, and I will be doing a video on Notion as well. So it's kind of pointless for me to run through these because, you know, May, I didn't even fill out the tending list. I was tracking a lot of this information in Notion, so I just didn't transfer it over. June, I did transfer. So we'll talk a little bit about, let's see, April and May were all about, let's make sure my company survives. And now that we've kind of started to come out of that survival mode, I'm working on finishing outstanding tasks and projects that I was working on before everything hit. And a few things that are as a result of it. So the first thing I'm working on this month is changing payroll companies. I am very excited to say that I ran my last payroll with ADP today. I have been very frustrated with them. I know people have different experiences, but I could not get a straight answer when it came to how they were going to handle the emergency sick leave for employers, which is important information for me because we actually had half of our maintenance technicians quarantined for 2 weeks, which meant I had to pay them that 80 hours of emergency sick leave from the federal government. And I had an idea of how that was supposed to work, but nobody could answer the question as to how I was going to have that money refunded to me. Because we're a small company. I don't have a bunch of extra funds just laying around to pay employees for 2 weeks because their time is billed back for the work that they do. So if they're not working, we're not being paid. So it's extra important in this situation. And so I finally got an answer, which was not the answer that I thought I should be getting. And then come to find out I was right. And they never actually gave me the correct answer. I just happened to come across it. So I was very frustrated with that. And then they started, and how I found out I was right was because they were not taking out the amount of money out of our bank accounts that they said they were going to. And then they put money in and didn't say why. And then they took money out and didn't say why. And I was like, that's it. Stop messing with my bank accounts. So yeah, long story short, I was like, that's it. I'm done. And so we found another payroll company. The next project that's kind of as a result of what's going on is creating reopening procedures. I'm still in the very early fleshing out stages of this. Things are changing fairly quickly, and we've had a spike of COVID cases in our county, which don't use that word lightly. I do pay attention to the actual data points rather than just listening to the news. My key is % of positive cases compared to test reports. Because sometimes they'll say there's a spike in the number of cases, but they also report twice as many tests because they found a batch that they hadn't reported. So, in all honesty, the percentage of the number of positive cases has gone down. But in this instance, the percentage of positive cases has gone up. So we're delaying again reopening. So I'm just trying to put everything together so when we get ready, we have all the county health documents that they want. And of course, as soon as I put it together, it's all going to change, but you know, whatever. This whole thing is very frustrating as a business owner. We're trying to do the best that we can for our employees, and I'm so thankful we can all work remotely. Because if we couldn't, I don't know. Anyway. The other thing I'm trying to work on is lease renewals. We put a hold on those because we do have a batch of people that need to sign them in person. Our office is closed. And so I am trying to figure out how that's going to work because we'll have to do most of it remotely. Goal setting video series, that's been completed. So I drew a line all the way through that. So that's just going. I have a bogus lawsuit that is still pending. And distributing the revised employee handbook. This was one of those outstanding tasks and projects. I had finished revising it, got everything updated, was getting ready to hand it out to everybody, and then everybody went home. So I finally just printed all the copies out, put them in everybody's boxes with a signature sheet so they could sign that they received it, and when they go back into the office, they'll have it. But we do have a digital copy for anybody who needs it in the meantime. So yeah, that's what I've been working on in June, and it's been kind of interesting because some things get put on pause, some other things pick up. I have had some other things that actually didn't make it to this list. We're trying to renew a fictitious business name, and what I thought was going to be fairly simple is now going to require like 60 days essentially of waiting time. So anyway, it was a big push, and now I'm back to waiting again. Just how a lot of these things go. All right, and I've decided to focus on essentially 5 daily actions or habits, and this has actually been working fairly well. So morning routine and evening routine. I have set things I have to do. I have some things that I want to do, but as long as I accomplish the bare minimum tasks, which like my morning routine is basically getting up, getting dressed, eating breakfast. That's the bare minimum. If I do that, I'm good. Or at least have coffee if I get something in my stomach. Other nice things to do, well actually no, bare minimum thing is make bed, but I do that automatically anyway. So other things that would be nice to do is a house chore, just some of those like random good things that you want to put on makeup. Right now I'm lucky if I wear makeup. Usually it's if I have a meeting I know will be a Zoom meeting with video. Otherwise, sometimes I just don't bother. There's that. The evening routine is basically taking out my contacts, washing my face, brushing my teeth, putting on my pajamas, and going to bed. Other things that I like to do in my evening routine would be, cleaning up the kitchen, making sure I'm running the dishwasher. Oh, other non-negotiable that usually falls somewhere in there is feeding the dogs. They won't let me forget. So that gives you an idea of the sorts of things. I have things that I would like to do, but at least I have a bare minimum, like 3 to 4 things that I do. Quiet time. Giving Joey his eye meds, and then making the schedule for the next day. So those are my bare minimum things. All right. So let's go back here. So just a couple of notes that I made to myself. So I have joined the Productive Flourishing Academy. You've heard me talk about Productive Flourishing before. They have the Momentum Planner. They did a couple of workshops recently. One of them was the Momentum Day. And part of that Momentum Day was a COVID review. And this actually was super helpful for me because I have had a very negative view of the last 3 months. So the questions that they asked us to answer were, what good things has COVID catalyzed for you? What challenges has COVID presented to you? What opportunities has COVID presented to you? What significant projects have been displaced by COVID? What significant new projects have emerged since COVID? And then there was a bonus question of what 3 to 5 things from your review above do you want to pull with you to the next block? So where we started focusing on projects. So just a couple of things that I filled out. So good things, inspiration for a new or different passion project. So that's kind of where that goal setting series came from. Finding different ways to connect with others. Spent less money, so I had more money to put away. It helped that I was able to keep my job and continue paying our employees. I know not everybody had that ability. And then I also realized the value in our food storage. So it's not as big as it used to be, but we do have a small food storage. And I discovered, because I was in DC and did not have time to go to the grocery store and kind of stock up like a lot of people did, which was when all the toilet paper disappeared and stuff, when I came back, for about a week, I basically had to make do with what I had in the house. So I was actually able to do that and put together reasonably healthy meals with what I had, because I still have a billion cans of tomatoes and things like that. But it was interesting because I was a little panicked and freaked out, but then I realized, wait, all of these skills I've developed all my life, I can put these into play. I know how to do this. Challenges that COVID presented to me was self-care and life balance. Trying to figure out what my new routine was. And that was actually one of the kind of aha moments that I had, is I was like waiting for life to go back to normal, or at least got closer to normal before I changed my routines to match. And it was maybe 2 weeks ago that I had the realization that even if things go back, there's still going to be differences. So what am I waiting for? So I've actually gone ahead, and I think if you've watched some of my earlier videos, you may have seen that I made like a temporary insert for my review documents that was like my temporary morning and evening routine, and then my temporary, I think I'm going to do my weekly routine. And I was like, why am I doing a temporary one? Let's just change it. If I go back, hey, sweet, I can go back to what it was before. But if I don't, I just continue moving on. So maybe that helps somebody out there. I don't know. Other challenges, realizing the importance of my in-person church community. I've really missed that. I've discovered that watching church online is not the same. It might be different for different denominations, but Episcopal services are very participatory. And so to not have that was very different. Having to find other forms of play. So my play is dancing, and there is no dancing right now, no partner dancing. So other challenges, handling rapid change without falling apart, and learning to deal with the media. That was different. Opportunities, learning to deal with the media. See extended goal setting series. So I had the space to try and be more consistent with YouTube, and working from home more often, and potentially remote from Texas. So projects that were displaced, lease renewals, the quarterly easing, traveling to see my husband, and teaching/attending Apartmentalize, which is a national conference for the Apartment Association. Significant new projects, goal setting series, reopening procedures, figuring out what Cambridge's new normal looks like, media interviews, figuring out how to administer normal projects more remotely, and then potentially moving to Texas, if that comes to fruition. So that review was super helpful. If you haven't done something like that, it might be useful, especially if you have a super negative point of view as far as what has been going on, to actually stop and think what good things have come out of it, but also to acknowledge what things have changed and are probably not going to be picked up again anytime soon, like what projects have been displaced. Because sometimes in the back of your mind you're feeling guilty because you haven't worked on them, and it's like, I'm going to own the fact that those were basically pushed aside, and I might come back to them, but don't feel guilty, because that is life. That's what happens. So that was that. That was part of Momentum Day. And then the next thing that they did was a Wheel of Life. And I think I've seen this in other forms with different categories. I think there's a level 10 life is something else I've kind of heard something like this referred to. So essentially you have a spiral of categories, and there's 10 levels. The top half is pretty much solo stuff. The bottom half is kind of together with others. So he said if it helps to think of 3 being crisis, so you're taking time, energy, and attention to address it, or you're worrying about it. 5 is okay. 7 to 8, it's really good, don't really think about it most of the time. And 10 is, it couldn't be better, and you're proud of it. It was interesting because even before I did this, I realized my focus for, see, this was middle of June, so my focus for this month was self-care. And if you look, 4, 4, 4, 7, 4. So all the solo stuff is really low. All of the together with other stuff is actually fairly high. So I was like, oh, well, now I understand why this is. I thought that was kind of interesting, and it actually kind of ties in a little bit with this goal refresh section. So I was able to do this and then take this and transfer it here. In the Powersheets, they have health, where Charlie had broken this health into physical, emotional, mental. So I actually wrote those down. It was interesting that all 3 of them had the same rating. So that made it super easy to rate the health section. The last quarter's been hard. Managing balance while working from home is a challenge, mostly because my business partners are family, and so I think I'm done with work for the day, and then I get a call with somebody wanting to discuss something work-related. So finding that balance has been a little challenging. The other thing he pointed out is to focus on just one section and moving that one section up 2. So physical is generally tied to a lot of things. I'm planning to focus for the next quarter on the physical section, hoping that by focusing on that, that will kind of bring up the emotional and mental sections too. And if I can tie it into play, which I also gave myself a 4, bonus. So that's kind of one of my goals, and yeah. So, okay. Friends I had as community, spouse, significant other, they call romantic, family matches, Finances, I gave myself a 10 because I got that debt paid off. Spiritual growth, 7. Work, I have as a 9. Mainly because looking back, I realized despite all the changes that are going on, we're still moving projects forward and I'm still implementing new technology and new workflows and stuff like that I would have been doing if I was in the office. So I kind of feel like we've moved to the point where we're able to refocus back again on growing and less on surviving. And then recreation, I think, is the same as play. I need to either find or rediscover new forms of play. So we'll see what that looks like. So that's that goal refresh. And I'd made myself a note because I knew these were going to be similar to complete this section after that Wheel of Life workshop. And then for my other sticky note here is that in Notion I have a quarterly theme, and so this was my quarterly theme, and for whatever reason this year I've been picking interesting words. Eudaimonia is this year's quarterly theme, and I think this kind of goes along with my unofficial quarterly theme, which is hope. So I'm hoping to focus on flourishing, prosperity, and blessedness, which is kind of that definition of eudaimonia. It basically is living your best life. So that's what I'm hoping to do. All right. The other thing that I have done is my goals I'm putting in the pillars section. When I do a Notion thing, this will all make more sense. If you've been watching August Bradley's stuff, that will make a lot more sense. But I'm trying to tie this and all my planning and Notion all in together so it all kind of weaves and combines easily. So I added spouse, family, and friends as a section because I have that as a pillar. So I was trying to tie these pillars in, which most of them were the same. I just modified a few to keep it at a controllable level. These are all the same. Finances changed, so now it's just snowball previous loan amounts into savings. Work industry, this is kind of like half, because I basically just took out the Cambridge side. Let me grab my, oh, here's my phone. And I actually need to write this in because I've been playing with goals the last couple of days. So the other thing that I have decided to do, because before for work, let me jump back here. I had create routines and review processes that put Cambridge responsibilities on autopilot. I've had that there. What I thought that meant, I've kind of changed. So it's essentially the same thing, but I've reworded it a little bit. So what I'm trying to do is create and work an iterative, that's a hard word, iterative review schedule for Cambridge. So essentially what I'm doing, I don't know if you'll be able to see this because there's going to be a reflection. So January, I'll be looking at document destruction, tax prep, hiring. February, leasing. March, accounting. April, resident relations. May, bank relationship, bank analysis. June, insurance, benefits. July, benefits. Actually, I probably need to switch May and June because I'm looking at switching banks right now, so that would probably be more appropriate. August, budget. September, maintenance. October, payroll company. November, tax meeting, tax prep. December, maintenance, HR exit / termination. So I'm taking either portions of my job or portions of the company, and my goal, if it works like I think it's going to, is I'm going to implement some of the Scrum methodology, which if you've seen the Kanban boards where they have backlog, working on, waiting for, completed, where you move the Post-it notes across, it's essentially kind of a similar idea. So what I would like to do is in each of those areas collect projects and things that I want to work on that are about a month long, and then when I hit that month, I can move those forward. So obviously they're not things that are urgent, but they're things that are important. So I want to make sure I'm taking time to focus on important things. So that's been added into this work industry goal, and I will actually write that down off camera because I write slowly and I can't write and talk at the same time. Yeah, spiritual growth remained the same, and then the passion project remained the same. So the big changes for my goals are finance, work industry. I revamped what that is. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything else kind of stayed the same. So I'm really focusing though on creating goal outcomes, defining for the next quarter what outcome I want to happen for each of these goals. Because I think some of these have just been kind of floating, and I want to make sure that I'm actually moving them forward. And I think that might be the missing key. If you're curious, let me pull up my goal outcomes and I'll give you some examples of what those might be. All right, so goal outcome for passion project. Post post 4 goal setting videos each month. So essentially that's 1 a week. So for goal 2, which is spouse, connect with Gary in person at least once a month. So going forward, traveling has started to open back up again, so that's my goal, is to visit with him at least once a month. The work and industry goal, where it talks about the iterative review. So I have under that process my first payroll with the new company on July 10th. Also kind of in there is help Cambridge survive COVID. Under health, I have focus on self-care. Back under Cambridge, I have redesign and update Cambridge websites. That's actually kind of a leftover project that I need to finish up. Under finance, my goal outcome is to save 2 months regular income. So the deadline for the finance goal is December 31st. The next one I have is to create a sustainable home maintenance routine. I've been using Motivated Moms, and essentially it's either an app and or she has a printable thing that gives you a list of things to do each day. Some of them are routine type items, some of them are things that repeat weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. What I have decided to do, because when I have tried to do her routine before, what was overwhelming is that I tried to do all of it. What I've been telling myself is to pick 3. I just need to do 3 things aside from my normal morning and evening routines for the house. So that could be emptying the dishwasher. Sometimes that's a part of my routine, but if I know it's probably not going to get done that day, I'll make it part of my one of the 3. It could be cleaning the shower or the tub. It could be cleaning the toilet. It could be cleaning the bathroom mirrors. It could be vacuuming a room. So I pick something that takes about 5 minutes or less to do, and so then I'm spending 15 minutes, but I'm slowly moving things forward. So usually I'll pick something from her list. This is what the app looks like here, if I can get that without a reflection. So today, for example, you see the things she puts in. Clean bathrooms and shower, vacuum bedrooms or second floor, dust clean baseboards in the bathroom, clean bathroom mirrors, sweep mop bathrooms, pick 1 clutter spot and work for 30 minutes, wipe down deep freeze outside and top. So I'm going to pick 3 of those and call it good for the day. So that's kind of where I've decided to go. I did that when I was in Texas visiting my husband. I just got back, and that actually worked really well because it was 15 minutes and then I was done. But there was also visible improvement, and I think that's what's important. So that's an update on my existential cleaning crisis. So that is where I have ended up with these goals. Most of it's the same. There are a few changes, but not too many. I think my focus really this next quarter is on those goal outcomes and making sure that that's kind of my quarterly project, if you will. And we'll talk about that in the goal setting videos when we get into breaking things down. It's what I want to accomplish for that goal in that quarter that I'm planning for. I'm hoping that was helpful. I wanted to kind of throw in some of the other stuff that I have been working on, whether that's the Wheel of Life or the COVID review that I did, because I do think those were actually very helpful when I was planning. And I think it's good to sit down if you have a moment to stop and think about what things went well for you the last quarter, what things maybe didn't go so well, but also to acknowledge, especially in a time like we've just been through and are still going through, let's be honest, what you plan to do that maybe got pushed to the side. There's a video in my goal setting series on how to say goodbye to a goal and, do you need a goal refresh? That's all kind of part of that idea of, is this a goal that I put aside temporarily? Is this one I've put aside permanently? Is it something I need to just rework so it fits into my current situation, or is it just gone for good? And I think that it's good to have that conversation with ourselves instead of beating ourselves up for not getting something done. Because let's be honest, none of this was something we could control. Not any of it at all. And sometimes I feel like we feel guilty because there's something we could have done. And you know what? Sometimes there isn't. And I think we just have to acknowledge that, give ourselves grace, and move on. So I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments or any aha moments that you had as a result of this video, I would love to hear them in the comments down below. I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!